General Vorth 22 was having what humans might call a very bad day, except that his species didn't really understand the concept of days, having evolved on a tidally locked planet where time was measured in the slow rotation of binary stars. What he did understand, however, was that roughly 16 hours ago his military career had transformed from distinguished service record to galactic laughingstock waiting to happen. The problem wasn't that the Kalreth Dominion had invaded 3 core worlds simultaneously. Wars happened, after all, and the general had fought in plenty of them. The problem wasn't even that their new bioweapons had turned the Coalition's standard defense protocols into what could generously be described as expensive fireworks displays. No, the real problem was that High Command had made a decision so monumentally desperate that it bordered on the insane. They had decided to ask the humans for help. "Sir," chirped Lieutenant Flux 88, his voice containing that particular pitch that suggested he was about to deliver news that would make everyone in the room wish they had chosen different career paths. "The human delegation has arrived." General Vorth 22 adjusted his ceremonial armor, which was currently making him feel less like a decorated military commander and more like an oversized ceremonial dinner plate. His forearms straightened the various medals and ribbons that decorated his chest, each one representing a victory that now seemed laughably insignificant compared to the current crisis. "How many ships did they bring?" he asked, trying to inject some hope into his voice. Perhaps the humans had sent one of their massive battle fleets, the kind that had helped them claim their independence from the Coalition 20 years ago. "Sir, on battleship." "On ship, sir. It's actually quite small." General Vorth 22 felt his secondary heart skip a beat. "Define small, Lieutenant." Lieutenant Flux 88 consulted his scanner, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly in that way that suggested he was hoping the readings would change if he looked at them enough times. "Approximately 200 meters long, sir. Standard human transport configuration. No visible weapon systems. It appears to be civilian." The general's mandibles clicked together in frustration. "Civilian? We ask the humans for their most powerful weapon, and they send us a cargo hauler?" "Actually, sir, according to their transmission, they did send their most powerful weapon. The human ambassador specifically stated that Earth's strongest asset was aboard that vessel." General Vorth 22 stood up from his command throne, his full 8-foot height making him an imposing figure even among his own species. "Then where is this supposed super weapon? Some kind of advanced artificial intelligence? A planet killer device? A doomsday virus?" "Sir, the human delegation is requesting permission to beam directly to the command center. They say they're ready to present Earth's contribution to the war effort." "Fine, grant them access, but if they think they can waste our time with some kind of primitive technology demonstration while 3 core worlds burn, they're going to learn why the Vorthak Empire once controlled half the galaxy." The transport beam materialized in the center of the command center, its blue energy matrix coalescing into solid forms. General Vorth 32 had expected to see human diplomats in formal wear, perhaps accompanied by scientists wielding some kind of advanced technological device. What he got instead was 3 humans in simple uniforms and 1 human in what appeared to be military dress. The first human stepped forward, a middle-aged female with graying hair and the kind of expression that suggested she had seen enough bureaucratic nonsense to power a small planet. "General Vorth 22, I presume. I am Ambassador Patricia Wells, representing the Terran Diplomatic Corps." "Ambassador Wells," the general replied, trying to keep the irritation out of his voice. "We appreciate Earth's response to our request, but time is of the essence. The Kalreth forces will reach the Proxima system in less than 36 hours. Where is this weapon your government promised to send?" Ambassador Wells smiled, and there was something about that expression that made General Vorth 22's survival instincts start sending warning signals. "General, before we begin, I think it's important that you understand something about human military doctrine. When we say we're sending our strongest weapon, we don't mean the biggest gun or the most advanced technology." "Then what do you mean?" asked Captain Yilix 4, her curiosity overriding military protocol. The ambassador gestured to the 4th human, who had been standing silently in the background. He was tall, probably around 6 feet in human measurements, with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His uniform was different from the others, more practical, with various insignia that General Vorth 22 didn't recognize. General Vorth 22, Captain Helix 4, allow me to introduce Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Harper, would you care to introduce yourself? The human called Harper stepped forward, with the kind of precise movement that suggested military training so ingrained it had become instinct. Sir, Staff Sergeant Harper reporting for duty. I'm here to assist with your Kalreth problem. General Vorth 22 stared at the human for a long moment, waiting for the punchline. When none came, he felt his secondary brain start processing the implications of what he was hearing. Ambassador Wells, surely you're not suggesting that one human soldier constitutes Earth's contribution to this war effort? Oh, not just any human soldier, General. Sergeant Harper here has seen action in 14 different conflicts across 4 star systems. He's an expert in asymmetric warfare, urban combat, hostile environment operations, and what humans call making things work when everything's gone to hell. Captain Helix 4's antenna twitched nervously. With all due respect, Ambassador, the Kalreth bioweapons have neutralized entire coalition armored divisions. What exactly do you expect one soldier to accomplish? Sergeant Harper spoke up, his voice carrying the kind of calm confidence that suggested he had been in this exact situation before. Ma'am, if I may, I'd like to review your tactical situation and enemy capabilities. From what I understand, you're dealing with adaptive biological weapons that counter your standard military responses. That's correct, General Vorth 22 replied, still trying to process the absurdity of the situation. The Kalreth have engineered organisms that specifically target our technology. Our energy weapons are useless, our shields are compromised, and our armor provides no protection. What about projectile weapons? Harper asked. Kinetic energy systems? Chemical explosives? Lieutenant Flux 88 answered. We abandoned such primitive systems centuries ago, Sergeant. Energy-based weapons are far more efficient and completely useless against an enemy that's adapted to counter them, Harper interrupted, his tone remaining respectful but firm. Sir, if I may suggest, sometimes the old ways work best. The Kalreth have probably never encountered a species that still uses gunpowder and steel. General Vorth 22 felt a strange sensation that took him several seconds to identify as hope. It was rusty from disuse, but definitely there. You're suggesting we fight bioweapons with primitive projectiles? I'm suggesting we fight adaptable enemies with weapons they've never adapted to counter, Harper replied. Sir, I've brought some equipment that might interest you. Standard human military gear, nothing fancy by our standards, but it might be exactly what you need. Ambassador Wells gestured toward their transport beam coordinates. Sergeant Harper's gear is still aboard our ship. Would you like to see a demonstration? Captain Helix 4 looked at General Vorth 22, who was experiencing the kind of cognitive dissonance that came from realizing that the solution to an impossibly complex problem might be embarrassingly simple. By all means, Sergeant. Show us what humanity's strongest weapon can do. 20 minutes later, General Vorth 22 found himself in the station's firing range, watching a human demonstrate what could only be described as controlled violence elevated to an art form. Sergeant Harper had unpacked a collection of devices that looked like they belonged in a museum of primitive technology. But the results he was achieving were anything but primitive. This is an M4 carbine, Harper explained, hefting a weapon that looked ridiculously simple compared to Coalition energy rifles. 5.56mm rounds, effective range approximately 500 meters. Rate of fire is 700 rounds per minute in full automatic mode. He raised the weapon and fired a short burst at a target 50 meters away. The sound was unlike anything in the general's experience. A sharp cracking noise that seemed to bypass the ears and strike directly at some primal part of the brain that remembered when survival meant running from things with big teeth. The target, a standard Coalition combat dummy designed to simulate Kalreth bioarmor, simply fell apart. No energy absorption, no adaptive countermeasures, no defensive evolution, just kinetic energy transferring into solid matter with devastating efficiency. Interesting. General Vorth 22 murmured. But surely the Kalreth will adapt to these weapons once they encounter them? Harper smiled, and there was something predatory about the expression that reminded the general why humans had earned their reputation as one of the galaxy's more dangerous species. Sir, that's the beauty of kinetic weapons. There's no technology to adapt to, just physics. And last I checked, the laws of physics are pretty much non-negotiable. He set down the rifle and picked up something that looked like a metal sphere with a pin attached. This is a fragmentation grenade. When activated, it disperses metal fragments in a kill radius of approximately 15 meters. No energy signature, no technological components to counter. Just old-fashioned explosive chemistry. Captain Wilex 4 was taking notes furiously. Sergeant, how quickly could we manufacture these weapons? Our industrial facilities could probably— Ma'am, with respect, you don't need to manufacture anything. Earth has been stockpiling military equipment for decades. We've got enough small arms to outfit your entire defense force. Plus ammunition, explosives, and support equipment. It's all sitting in warehouses, waiting for a good cause. General Vorth 22 felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Optimism. Sergeant Harper, exactly how much equipment are we talking about? Well, sir, according to my briefing, Earth's military surplus includes approximately 12 million assault rifles, 3 million sidearms, 50,000 machine guns, 200,000 rocket-propelled grenades, and enough ammunition to keep shooting for about 6 months of continuous combat operations. The silence that followed this statement was broken only by the sound of Lieutenant Flux 88's datapad hitting the floor. Ambassador Wells cleared her throat. There is, of course, the matter of payment. Earth's government is willing to provide all of this equipment, plus military advisors and training personnel in exchange for certain considerations. Here it comes, thought General Vorth 22. The humans want technology, territorial concessions, probably mining rights to half the core worlds. What kind of considerations, Ambassador? Full diplomatic recognition for Earth as a sovereign power, equal voting rights in the Coalition Council, and unrestricted access to galactic trade networks. General Vorth 22 blinked all 6 eyes. That's all? That's all. Oh, and one more thing. We want Sergeant Harper here to have operational command of the defense efforts. Earth's equipment comes with Earth's expertise. Captain Wilex 4 looked scandalized. You want us to put a single human soldier in charge of defending 3 core worlds? Sergeant Harper spoke up again, his voice carrying that same calm confidence. Ma'am, I've been reading your tactical reports. The Kalreth are using classical swarm tactics with adaptive bioweapons. It's a good strategy against energy-based defenses, but it has some serious vulnerabilities when faced with area-effect kinetic weapons and coordinated defensive positions. He gestured toward the destroyed target dummy. Give me a battalion of your best troops, arm them with human weapons, and let me show them how to fight dirty. I guarantee the Kalreth are going to get a very unpleasant surprise. General Vorth 22 looked around the firing range, taking in the destroyed target, the primitive but effective human weapons, and the quiet confidence of the soldier who claimed he could save 3 core worlds with what amounted to museum pieces and attitude. Sergeant Harper, he said finally, I hereby grant you full operational authority over Coalition defense forces in the core world sectors. Try not to make me regret this decision. Harper snapped to attention with military precision. Sir, yes, sir. I'll need detailed intelligence on Kalreth force composition, terrain maps of the target worlds, and a complete inventory of available Coalition personnel and equipment. And sir, yes, Sergeant, you might want to warn your troops that human combat doctrine can be intense. We tend to approach warfare differently than most species. How so? Sergeant Harper's smile returned, and General Vorth 22 realized that perhaps the humans had sent exactly the right weapon after all. Sir, most species fight wars to win. Humans fight wars to end them permanently. As the human walked away to begin planning the defense of 3 worlds with nothing but primitive weapons and an attitude that suggested he had done this sort of thing before, General Vorth 22 found himself wondering if the Kalreth Dominion had any idea what they were about to encounter. Somehow he doubted it. 32 hours later, General Vorth 22 stood on the observation deck of the orbital defense platform above Kepler Prime. watching what could only be described as organized mayhem unfold in the training yards below. Staff Sergeant Harper had taken exactly 6 hours to assess coalition forces and declare them enthusiastic but tactically confused. The following 26 hours had been spent rectifying that situation. "Sir," reported Captain Wallix IV, her voice carrying a mixture of admiration and bewilderment, "the human has transformed our entire defensive strategy. I'm not entirely sure how, but our combat effectiveness ratings have increased by 300%. Through the viewport, General Vorth 22 watched coalition soldiers practicing what Harper called fire and movement tactics, using human weapons that looked like they belonged in a scrapyard. The sounds drifting up from the training ground were unlike anything he had ever heard from military exercises. Sharp cracks of gunfire, shouted commands in at least 12 different languages, and what sounded suspiciously like laughter. "He's teaching them to enjoy combat," General Vorth 22 observed. "I've never seen anything like it." "Sir, the Kalreth Advance Fleet has entered the outer system," announced Lieutenant Flux 88 from his sensor station. "Estimated time to planetary orbit 4 hours. Harper's voice crackled over the communication system. "General, this is Harper. We're ready down here. My advisory team has distributed equipment to all defense positions, and your troops have mastered the basics of not shooting each other. We're as prepared as we're going to get." General Vorth 22 activated his comm unit. "Sergeant, our sensors show approximately 50,000 Kalreth bioships approaching. Are you certain your unconventional methods will be sufficient?" "Sir, I'm about to introduce the Kalreth to a concept they've probably never encountered: asymmetric warfare, human style. They're expecting energy weapons and predictable tactics. Instead, they're going to get bullets, explosives, and the fine art of military improvisation." 4 hours later, the Kalreth invasion fleet entered Kepler Prime's atmosphere like a plague of living nightmares. Their bioships writhed and pulsed as they descended, organic hulls glistening with adaptive armor that had proven immune to every weapon the Coalition had tried against them. General Vorth 22 had seen recordings of Kalreth assaults on other worlds, and they always followed the same pattern: overwhelming bioweapon deployment, rapid adaptation to defensive measures, and complete planetary subjugation within hours. What happened next was so far outside established military doctrine that General Vorth 22 would spend years trying to explain it to Coalition Command. The first wave of Kalreth bioships approached the primary defense installation, their organic sensors probing for energy signatures and technological threats. What they found instead was Staff Sergeant Harper standing on the main defensive wall, holding what appeared to be a primitive chemical explosive device. "Contact front," Harper's voice boomed across the comm network. "Light 'em up." The sound that erupted from Coalition defensive positions was like nothing in galactic military history. Instead of the clean hum of energy weapons, the air filled with the savage crack of projectile weapons, the whistle of rocket-propelled grenades, and the thunderous roar of explosives designed to move dirt and kill things within a very specific radius. The lead Kalreth bioship, a writhing mass of adaptive tissue and biological weapons, simply disintegrated under a concentrated barrage of high-velocity metal projectiles. Its adaptive armor, evolved over millions of years to counter energy-based attacks, proved utterly useless against chunks of lead traveling at 2,000 feet per second. "Holy void," whispered Captain Yelix IV. "They're actually working." Harper's tactical brilliance became apparent as the battle progressed. Instead of meeting the Kalreth head-on in predictable defensive positions, he had deployed Coalition forces in what he called mutually supporting kill zones. The aliens found themselves caught in crossfires from positions they couldn't detect, taking fire from weapons their biology couldn't adapt to counter. "Kalreth bioship attempting to breach Sector 7, reported a Coalition squad leader, his voice tight with excitement. "Engaging with rocket-propelled grenades and sustained automatic weapons fire." "Copy that. Remember, short controlled bursts. Make your ammunition count," Harper replied, his voice calm despite the chaos surrounding him. General Vorth 22 watched in fascination as Harper coordinated the defense from the front lines, moving between positions with an assault rifle in one hand and a communication device in the other. The humans seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to anticipate enemy movements and counter them with devastating effectiveness. "Sir," Lieutenant Flux 88 called out, "Kalreth Command Bioship is attempting to adapt to kinetic weapon impacts. Their armor is beginning to show evolutionary changes." Harper's laughter came through the comm system. "Outstanding. Tell me, Lieutenant, how long does biological adaptation usually take?" "Kalreth bioforms typically require 6 to 8 hours to develop effective countermeasures, Sergeant." "Perfect. Jones, Williams, initiate Plan Delta. Time to show these biological marvels what chemical warfare looks like." What followed was a masterclass in human military creativity. Instead of relying on a single weapon system, Harper began cycling through different types of attacks faster than the Kalreth could adapt. Kinetic weapons gave way to incendiary devices, which were followed by chemical explosives. Then back to kinetic weapons with different projectile types. "The human is playing with them," Captain Yelksfor realized. "He's deliberately preventing adaptation by constantly changing tactics." General Vorth 22 nodded slowly. "He's not just fighting them. He's studying them, learning their adaptation patterns, and exploiting the time lag in their evolutionary responses." The battle continued for 3 hours, and with each passing minute, it became increasingly clear that the Kalreth had encountered something they were completely unprepared for. Their bioships, designed to overwhelm technologically advanced civilizations, found themselves being systematically destroyed by weapons that were primitive by galactic standards, but devastatingly effective against adaptive organic armor. "General," Harper's voice came through the comms, slightly breathless but still confident. "I'm seeing movement in the upper atmosphere. Looks like the main Kalreth fleet is attempting to withdraw." Withdraw? General Vorth 22 could hardly believe what he was hearing. "The Kalreth don't withdraw. They adapt and overwhelm." "Sir, with respect, they adapt to threats they understand. What they're facing down here isn't advanced technology they can counter. It's applied physics, backed by human tactical doctrine. Newton's laws don't evolve, and neither do the principles of combined arms warfare." As if to punctuate his point, a massive explosion lit up the sky as coalition forces destroyed another Kalreth bioship with what appeared to be a rocket-propelled grenade fired from an impossible angle. "How did they even make that shot?" Captain Elikfor asked. Harper's reply came with what sounded like genuine amusement. "Ma'am, human military training includes something called advanced ballistics and creative target engagement. We've been shooting things from unlikely angles for longer than most species have had space flight." The Kalreth withdrawal became a rout, as Harper's forces pursued the retreating bioships with portable rocket launchers and what he cheerfully referred to as aggressive small unit tactics. By the time the last enemy vessel fled the atmosphere, coalition forces had suffered minimal casualties while completely destroying the invasion force. "Sergeant Harper," General Vorth 22 called over the comm, "report to the command center immediately. I need to understand what just happened." 20 minutes later, Harper stood before the general's desk, his uniform dusty and his equipment clearly showing signs of recent combat. He looked, General Vorth 22 thought, like he had enjoyed every minute of the battle. "Sir, Staff Sergeant Harper reporting. Mission accomplished. Kepler Prime remains under coalition control, and the Kalreth invasion force has been neutralized." "Sergeant, how is it possible that one human soldier accomplished what our entire military couldn't?" Harper considered the question seriously. "Sir, it's not that your military couldn't handle the Kalreth. It's that you were trying to fight them with the wrong tools. You were attempting to counter biological adaptation with technological advancement. But sometimes the best answer to a complex problem is a simple solution applied with overwhelming force." Ambassador Wells stepped forward from where she had been observing the debriefing. "General, if I may? What Sergeant Harper has demonstrated is the core principle of human military doctrine. We don't just fight to win battles. We fight to ensure that the enemy never wants to fight us again." Meaning that every Kalreth bioship that escaped today will carry the message back to their empire that Earth's weapons are unlike anything they've ever encountered. They'll report that human tactics are unpredictable, human weapons are incomprehensible, and human soldiers are... She paused, looking at Harper with something approaching respect. "Enthusiastic about their work." Harper grinned. Sir, by tomorrow, every Kalreth commander in the galaxy will know that Earth has entered the war. They'll know that human weapons ignore their biological adaptations, human tactics confuse their strategic planning, and human soldiers treat combat like it's the best part of their day, and that will deter future attacks? Sir, Harper replied, his expression becoming serious. After today, the Kalreth will spend more time worrying about what humans might do next than planning their own operations. Fear is a weapon, and today we gave them something to be afraid of. General Vorth 22 leaned back in his command chair, processing the implications of what he had witnessed. Sergeant, your tactics were completely outside established military doctrine. Your weapons were primitive by galactic standards. Your strategies seemed to involve making things up as you went along. And yet it worked, sir. It worked brilliantly. How do you explain that? Harper thought for a moment. Sir, humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've learned that the best way to win a war isn't with the biggest weapon or the most advanced technology. It's with adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to protect what matters. And what matters to humans, Sergeant? Our people, sir. Our friends. Our allies. When someone threatens those things, humans don't just fight back. We make sure the threat is permanently neutralized. As if on cue, Lieutenant Flux 88 looked up from his sensor station. Sir, long-range scanners are detecting the Kalreth main fleet withdrawing from all 3 core world systems. They appear to be retreating. Ambassador Wells smiled. General, I believe Earth's contribution to your war effort has been successful. The Kalreth are withdrawing not because they've been defeated, but because they've learned that humans are not an enemy they want to face again. And our agreement? General Vorth 22 asked. Full diplomatic recognition, equal voting rights, and unrestricted trade access. Wells confirmed. Earth is officially requesting membership in the Galactic Coalition. General Vorth 22 looked at Staff Sergeant Harper, who was cleaning his rifle with the casual efficiency of someone who had performed the same action thousands of times. Sergeant, does Earth have many soldiers like you? Harper looked up from his weapon maintenance. Sir, Earth has approximately 2 million active military personnel, with another 8 million in reserve. We've been training for warfare longer than most species have been sentient. And they're all like you? Harper's grin returned, and General Vorth 22 realized that the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. Sir, I'm actually considered pretty average by Marine Corps standards. You should meet our special operations teams sometime. Later that evening, as General Vorth 22 filed his report to Coalition Command, he found himself struggling to explain how Earth's strongest weapon had proven to be exactly what they needed. Not advanced technology or overwhelming firepower, but simple human ingenuity applied with devastating effectiveness. His final report concluded with a recommendation that surprised even him. Immediate acceptance of Earth's membership application and a formal alliance treaty with human military forces. After all, he reasoned, any species that could turn museum pieces into war-winning weapons and treat combat like a recreational activity was exactly the kind of ally the Coalition needed. The war with the Kalreth Empire was far from over, but General Vorth 22 was no longer worried about the outcome. Earth had sent their strongest weapon, and Staff Sergeant Harper had proven that sometimes the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy was a human soldier with a job to do and the tools to do it. The universe was about to learn why humanity's greatest export wasn't technology or resources. It was creative solutions to complex problems, delivered at high velocity. 3 days after the battle, General Vorth 22 received a priority transmission that would fundamentally change his understanding of human military capabilities. The message came from Admiral Kest 7, commander of coalition forces in the Outer Rim territories. General Vorth 22, we've just received the most extraordinary intelligence report. It seems word of your human advisor's success has spread throughout Kalreth space. Their high command has issued what can only be described as a species-wide tactical bulletin. What kind of bulletin? General Vorth 22 asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. They're warning all Kalreth forces to avoid direct engagement with human-made coalition units, The report specifically mentions primitive kinetic weapons of unknown effectiveness and unpredictable tactical doctrines that resist biological countermeasures. Captain Yelix 4, who had been observing Harper's ongoing training programs, looked up from her datapad. Sir, it gets better. 3 different Kalreth fleet commanders have requested transfers to sectors that don't involve potential human contact. Their military efficiency has dropped by 40% galaxy-wide. General Vorth 22 felt a familiar sensation of disbelief. You're telling me that one human soldier has demoralized an entire empire? Not just demoralized, sir, Lieutenant Flux 88 added, consulting his latest intelligence reports. They've begun altering their strategic doctrine. The Kalreth are now developing countermeasures for projectile weapons, chemical explosives, and what they're calling erratic human behavioral patterns in combat situations. Harper's voice came through the comm system from the training grounds below. General, you might want to see this. We've got incoming transmissions from 12 different coalition worlds requesting human military advisors. Apparently the Zelthak Confederacy heard about our little demonstration and decided they want some of that action too. Ambassador Wells, who had been coordinating with Earth's government, approached the General's command station. General, I've just received authorization from Earth Command to deploy additional military personnel. We're prepared to send 50 more advisors plus enough equipment to outfit a full coalition battle group. 50 advisors? General Vorth 22 asked. How many troops could they effectively train and equip? Conservative estimate? About 200,000 coalition soldiers. Earth's military doctrine scales up quite efficiently. 1 human advisor per 4,000 troops, with standardized training protocols and equipment packages. General Vorth 22 stared out at the training grounds, where coalition soldiers were practicing what Harper called advanced marksmanship and tactical creativity. The sounds of gunfire and explosions had become so routine that he barely noticed them anymore. What struck him was the enthusiasm of the trainees. His soldiers weren't just learning new tactics, they were enjoying themselves. Ambassador, there's something I need to understand. Why are humans so effective at warfare? Your species isn't physically superior to most galactic races. Your technology, while ingenious, isn't the most advanced. What makes the difference? Ambassador Wells considered the question carefully. General, humans spent thousands of years fighting each other before we reached the stars. We've perfected warfare not as a science, but as an art form. Every conflict taught us something new. Every defeat made us stronger. Every victory showed us a better way to fight the next battle. But surely other species have similar military histories. Other species fight wars to achieve specific objectives. Humans fight wars to ensure peace. There's a fundamental difference in approach. When a human soldier enters combat, they're not just trying to win a battle, they're trying to end the conflict so thoroughly that it never happens again. Harper's voice crackled over the comm again. General, we've got a situation developing. Long-range sensors are detecting what looks like a Zelthak probe fleet approaching the outer rim. They're broadcasting surrender codes and requesting immediate audience with the human weapons specialist. Surrender codes? Captain Yelix 4 asked. The Zelthak don't surrender. They've been at war with the Coalition for 15 years. Ma'am, Harper replied, his voice carrying that familiar tone of amused confidence. Apparently they've been monitoring Kalreth military communications. Word gets around fast in military circles, especially when it involves new ways to kill things efficiently. General Vorth 22 activated his communication system. Sergeant Harper, report to the command center immediately. It appears we have a diplomatic situation developing. 10 minutes later, Harper stood before the command staff, his uniform bearing the dust and scorch marks of another training session. Sir, I've been monitoring the Zelthak transmissions. They're not just surrendering, they're requesting alliance terms. Specifically, they want access to human military training and equipment in exchange for complete cessation of hostilities and full territorial concessions. Zelthak Confederacy is offering to end a 15-year war in exchange for human training? General Vorth 22 felt that familiar sensation of reality shifting around him. Sir, it appears that our little demonstration has had galaxy-wide implications. When word spreads that humans can neutralize adaptive bioweapons with museum pieces and tactical creativity, It tends to make other species reconsider their strategic positions. Ambassador Wells smiled. General, I believe Earth has just solved your Zeltec problem as well. Our military advisors specialize in ending conflicts efficiently. As General Vorth 22 prepared to brief Coalition Command on these latest developments, he realized that humanity's entry into galactic politics was going to be far more significant than anyone had anticipated. Earth's strongest weapon wasn't just Staff Sergeant Harper or even human military doctrine. It was the simple fact that humans approached warfare with a level of creative enthusiasm that made other species prefer peace to finding out what humans might do next.